Man, sure is a bummer we live in a kingdom where there's a class of rich and powerful people who are only rich and powerful because they're already rich and powerful. You're so right. I mean, we don't get any say in how things are run here. The only choice we have is if we want to leave, but then we'll end up somewhere else with the same problems. I know, I hate the monarchy. Monarchy? I was talking about company owners. Congratulations, bozo! You've just been radicalized! That, comrades, is what we are fighting for. To use our collective power as the working class to take hold of the means of production, to instill the values of democracy in the workplace as well as the state, to fight for a world where every man is equal, from each according to his abilities and to each according to his needs. Yes! A radical change for the better. But remember, comrades, we cannot do any of this without power. Comrades, the workers of the world face a crisis. 1 in 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. But do not despair. Hair loss stops with Keeps. Today's sponsor, Keeps, is a subscription service that delivers affordable, generic brand treatment directly to your door. Keeps offers both of the FDA-approved hair loss treatment options, as well as a 2-in-1. The voice of the people is clear. Keeps has over 5,000 5-star reviews. Join the million-strong army who use Keeps every day. And use Keeps hair strengthening shampoo and conditioner to fortify the follicular front. This is not an offer. It is a duty to your scalp and your country. Sign up for Keeps today at keeps.com/Jack Rackham or using the link in the description. That's KEEPS.com/Jack Rackham. Do not delay. The strength of your hair is the strength of your nation. Hey, boys and girls, who wants to talk about communism? I promise this will make you so much fun at parties and Thanksgiving and job interviews. There is no conversation that is not made more interesting by dropping communism in there. I guarantee it. The year is 1917. It's been nearly 70 years since Karl Marx dropped his book How to Communist, in which, long story short, capitalism was a step forward from feudalism, but still stinky doo-doo, and there's a better way of doing things called communism, where there's no government and the Earth's abundant resources are distributed fairly to all. But to get there, you gotta do this thing called socialism, which is where the workers inevitably get fed up with stinky doo-doo capitalism. They take control of the factories for themselves, and the government declares that just like you can't own an army or a kingdom, you can't own a business, and you can't own land. In those first 70 years, people read this book, and while a lot of early communists were really excited to argue about what a real communist is, nobody had actually done a lot of communism yet. And then Russia got a hold of communism. Russia had no business doing communism, because to be honest, Russia wasn't totally done with feudalism yet, but the monarchy was this close to getting overthrown, meaning it was a complete free-for-all to decide who's next in charge. If ever there was an opportunity to get in there and make the government start doing something as kooky crazy as communism, this was it. Of course, to spread the good word of treating everyone fairly, there was one small hiccup. The communists still needed money. And so a bunch of friends named Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky, and some other guys got together and started robbing banks and forming protection rackets so they could publish their newspaper. And as for the whole thing about democracy in the workplace and the government, Stalin is right that I'm right. We need organization and discipline. Orders come from the top, and everyone has to obey them no matter what. I thought the whole point was more democracy. We'll hold elections from a set of pre-screened career politicians. Professional revolutionaries. Professional revolutionaries, yes! Trotsky, you must believe in Comrade Lenin. We have one shot at this. We need a system that will get us in power right now. And right now, that means discipline. Come! We have a parliament to sack. Lenin's party, the Bolsheviks, had actually gotten elected to parliament, but they had to share power with the Mensheviks, a bunch of pinko commie bedwetters who thought the government shouldn't be making money from protection rackets and bank robberies and kidnappings. So the Bolsheviks in Moscow took over bridges and post offices and power stations and telephone exchanges and everything that makes the government, and they chased the Mensheviks out of town. Hands up, everyone! This is a hostile takeover. You see, Trotsky, organization and discipline. Comrade Lenin is always right. The Mensheviks ended up allying with the monarchists and starting a civil war. During the war, the Lenin government briefly experimented with giving up on having a functional currency and allotting everything to its people by ration. So, for instance, if you were a worker who needed a new bicycle to get to work, you would submit an application to your local council. They would tell you Russia was an underdeveloped country in the midst of a civil war against the monarchists, laugh in your face, give you some bread, and tell you to get back to work. This plan also involved confiscating all of the surplus crops from private farms without compensation, so when the farmers stopped making surplus, Lenin made an important announcement. Today, the USSR proudly takes a great step backwards. We're doing capitalism again, just a little bit. Lenin's new economic policy brought back some private enterprise and a functioning currency so that the communists could rebuild the 80% of industrial output they'd lost over the past decade. This was met with some controversy, as if there wasn't enough fighting going on in the party already. A schism had formed between the only two men in Lenin's inner circle he trusted enough to let visit him without an appointment: Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin. We're not being communist enough. Comrade Lenin knows best, my friend. Oh, so you agree with me and Lenin about exporting the revolution now? Until I can change Lenin's mind, that's fine with me. And what's this about Lenin's secret police torching entire villages? Isn't that why we hated the monarchy? Trotsky. Oppression and terror, these things, they are neither good nor bad. They are just tools. Yeah, Trotsky. Comrade Lenin! Are you okay? Yeah. No, that was weird. I just felt a little stroke-y. I'm sure it's nothing. Lenin died in 1922. While Lenin was ill, Stalin was his go-to connection to the rest of the party. No one supported Lenin quite like Stalin. Except, Lenin didn't actually like Stalin all that much. He had partially hired Stalin in the first place to be a token minority, and based on Stalin's performance in the Civil War, you'll run out of bullets before I run out of men! Lenin was beginning to think he wasn't the brightest bulb in the box. Trotsky was Lenin's preferred successor, but the truth never stopped old Stalin. Stalin turned the dead Lenin into the star figure of a cult of personality, and nobody loved Comrade Lenin more than Comrade Stalin. Soon, with a little help from his friends, Stalin had amassed the power to kick Trotsky out of the party for good. With complete control over the party and the country, Stalin then immediately ditched Lenin's economic policy. Worker unions were either dissolved or completely neutered, and workers, especially those in hazardous working conditions, were no longer allowed to strike. Workers were assigned to jobs by the state and paid a wage set by the state and used their money to buy goods from the state at prices set by the state. In other words, as much as it's a meme to say no one ever tried real communism, the USSR under Stalin was the world's largest company town. It's a monopoly. Stalin did have to replace Lenin's ideas with something, so he stole a bunch of Trotsky's ideas. The Soviet Union was still lagging way behind other foreign powers, and those other foreign powers were still not happy about Russia going communist. They were all preoccupied with the Great Depression, but Stalin needed to get Soviet industry on par with the West by the time they recovered, in case they picked a fight. The solution, you ask? I give you the 5-year plan. Step 1, we collectivize the farms. If we confiscate the surplus, farmers stop planting surplus, but not if we own the farms. Step 2, quotas. Quotas for farms, quotas for factories. We've got a bottom line here, people. Anyone who fails to meet quotas will face financial, political, or legal repercussions. And anyone who succeeds will be rewarded with higher quotas. As you might imagine, there were a few complications. Expectations were high and purges were frequent, so workers were incentivized to lie to their managers, who were encouraged to lie to their managers, who lied to their managers, and up all the way back to Stalin. Gentlemen, I am pleased to report that our first 5-year plan has been a tremendous success. The party has cornered 60% of the domestic wheat market. Good job, team. So now, we buy low, sell high, and reinvest our profit. Comrade Stalin, I'm concerned our reports may be inaccurate. If we sell this much wheat to urban factory workers for a profit, we won't have enough to feed the peasants of Ukraine and Kazakhstan. Thank you, Mr. Ivanovich. This actually leads me to another exciting new initiative we're launching. Comrades, political dissenters like Mr. Ivanovich who are sent to the gulags will become a critical part of our new cost-cutting labor force. But while the truth may not have lived up to Stalin's insatiable expectations, 10 years of sacrifice and concerted efforts by workers in the factories and interns in the gulags did propel the USSR's industrial output to record heights, and just in time. Somehow, despite spending the last 10 years fearing invasion from the West, Stalin was completely blindsided in 1941 when he was invaded from the West. The German blitzkrieg tore through hundreds of miles of Russian countryside, and the tide only began to turn with some of the largest and costliest battles in world history. In part because, again, they're killing all our men! Then use more men! The death toll was over 27 million on the Russian side alone, most of them civilian. It was as bitter as victory could possibly taste. Unless you were Stalin. People of Russia, and to a lesser extent other Soviets, thanks to your sacrifice, we have achieved record profits! The communist market share in Europe has never been higher. Communism is making headway in China. Industrialization is almost at the level I asked for. And my popularity is at an all-time peak. To express my sincerest gratitude, I have decided to throw the USSR a pizza party with one entire pizza. And Stalin lived happily ever after.